with the Reverend Kate Botley and Jason Mohammed.
BBC Radio 2.
Very good morning. Welcome to BBC Radio 2. I'm the Reverend Kate Botley and he is Jason Mohammed. And
Yes.
we are beyond excited.
So excited.
So excited.
What's this in the background I can hear, Kate?
I think it's Cliff Richard.
Is it Cliff Richard? It's Sir Cliff Richard, The Young Ones. A very special interview with Cliff coming up.
The young ones, darling, we're the young ones.
Cliff Richard and the Young Ones. I'm playing that for the young ones and for the young at heart ones, indeed. And it's such a fitting song to play for someone who seems so timeless, who's been the soundtrack to our years.
Well, the thing is, of course, it was a movie, and anything that's attached to a movie gets preference, I think. And we were lucky to get that song. I mean, I still sing it. I sang it during my tour recently, and I always dedicate it to the audience and everybody who is under the age of 90.
And the over 90s go, this isn't for me. This one's not for me.
First of all, Cliff, can we just say a big thank you for taking the time to talk to us here on Good Morning Sunday. Big fans.
My pleasure, really.
You talked to us a few years ago on our show,
Yes.
and that was down the line. But to see you in person here at Wogan House is a big thrill for Kate and I, so thank you so much.
It's a joy, it really is.
It is, really.
Oh, no, it's my pleasure, honestly. It's a good chance to talk about things. Radio is good for that. That's
Yeah.
what... In a way, there was a period when records didn't really get played by people who were older than 30. So nowadays it's been great. And my album was the album of the week last week. And those sort of things encourage you to think, OK, I can still make records. Yeah. So I can't wait to get into a studio again.
Do you need much encouragement? You strike me as someone who doesn't need much encouragement.
It's the encouragement comes from people like the record company. I mean, they had the idea to release this album in this way, to take out the original backing and replace it with orchestrations. And I was a bit wary, because when it comes to songs like Carrie and We Don't Talk Anymore, we did it. And then I hear it and I'm thinking, God, it worked. Yeah. But, the public in the end are the final masters because they decide whether they want to have it or not. So I just have to keep my fingers crossed that people who probably already have the songs will say, oh, didn't think it could sound like this with an orchestra. And it does.
And of course, they did that with Elvis's tracks recently, didn't they? With Elvis and the Philharmonic.
Yes.
They released all his tracks with an orchestra behind them. It sounded fantastic.
That's right.
And I mean, tell us about Elvis. Tell us about your joy, because I see your eyes light up when I mention his name.
Well, the thing is, if Elvis had not been there, I don't think I would be here. And I think that even the Beatles, we've discovered that when we first met, way back, when they first started recording, they listened to the same people that we listened to. Elvis, Little Richard, Buddy Holly, Chuck Berry, Everly Brothers. It's fantastic, really, that background is ours.
What was the first Elvis record you can remember listening to then, Cliff?
Oh, well, the first one would have been Blue Suede Shoes.
Right.
And then, of course, it was the first track on the album that came out. And so I had to save up, 3p a week till I had enough money to buy an album. It was fantastic. But of course, he was followed by a bunch of people. I think I call it a tsunami of rock and roll that came over, that flooded over me, over Elton John. None of us would exist if it hadn't been for that American art form. America will always be the fatherland of rock and roll.
I'm a massive Elvis fan, so
huge
Elvis fan, and was brought up on it by my dad. So he would put the records on and say, listen to this, because that's one of the things we can do for the next generations coming up, is we can encourage them to listen to such a broad spectrum. We're going to play some music now. I think you've heard of him. I think we'll play this. Someone called Elvis Presley. I think you've probably heard of him.
Yeah, we thought we'd cue this up for you, Cliff.
Well, it's one for the money, two for the show, three to get ready. Now go camping shoes. Well, you can do anything, but they hope for my blue suede shoes.
Well, Cliff, how does that make you feel? Because all of us here in the studio and all our production team at Radio 2, we're all bopping to that tune.
Well, you can't help it, can you?
You can't.
And I tried to get permission to do an album with Elvis, but they wouldn't give me permission, so they gave me one song, and I chose to do that one. And I sing with Elvis, and it was really weird because I had my headphones on, and suddenly, I think I started, "Was one for the money," and then suddenly I heard, "Who for the show?" I almost turned around because it felt like he was right there with me. I was thrilled that I got a chance to sing with Elvis.
Cliff, before we go on to talk about Move It, Angry, the Rolling Stones' new single off their album Hackney Diamonds, is one of the records of the year. They're still doing it, you're still doing it. What is it about so-called, inverted commas, heritage acts that's still pulling in the crowds?
Well, the thing is, you can't. It's like saying to a painter, you can only paint.
Yeah, of course.
Until you're 30.
Yeah.
I mean, it's ridiculous. They can paint until they die, and some of us, with a bit of luck, we'll be able to sing till we die. It's slightly unfair if in fact ageism is the reason why we're not played. If you don't want to play us because you don't think the record's any good, that's another whole reason. But not to give us a chance is a difficult one. But as you say, the Stones can still do it. I think they're still the biggest band in the world. They can tour everywhere and anywhere. And I have my following as well. When I first started, my records were played in between Ella Fitzgerald, Frank Sinatra, Max Bygraves, and sometimes you won and sometimes you didn't. And that's the way it should be.
So your first big hit, not as a solo artist, but with the Drifters and the track Move It, which got to #2 in the UK charts. How did that collaboration come about?
The Drifters were me, Terry Smart on the drums, and Ian Mitham on a guitar. We were joined by a guy called Ian Samwell, who wrote Move It on the way to my house in Cheshunt on the Green Line bus. And he only finished half of it. So we went to Norrie Paramore's and he called us in for an audition and liked it.
I love that it was written on a bus. I mean, all I've ever done on a bus is eat a bag of chips. So, you know, I think it's amazing that this was half written on a bus.
Fantastic. Okay, let's hear it. This is Move It.
The marvellous Move It and Cliff Richard, and I'm delighted to say that Cliff is still with us here on Good Morning Sunday, talking all things music business, and just lovely to hear that again.
Yeah.
Incredible. And this new album takes those sort of classic hits but reimagines them with an orchestra. How was it hearing your voice for the first time on those new recordings?
Well, I heard it a few times because they were mixing it and they were sending it to me, and I'm saying, oh, maybe more guitar there or whatever it was. But when I finally got the final master mix, what appealed to me was my voice seems to lead everything. It seems to be right there by itself with this orchestration underneath. And I quite liked that because, you know, look at that. I took a breath there. On the original record, you probably wouldn't have heard that. It's always a question mark as to whether the public will like it. They'll know some of the songs. Carrie, for instance, We Don't Talk Anymore, Wired for Sound is on there.
Great records.
So they're all songs that you remember as something quite different, and suddenly they're a wash of strings and things.
I have to ask you this, Cliff. How do you keep your voice so wonderful? How do you rest your voice? How do you look after it?
You've got to rest it, of course, when you can. And from now on, after doing a tour, I probably won't sing anything until the next tour. But I keep my voice in touch by using exercises. So I have a CD, which was a birthday present from Olivia Newton-John, of her vocal coach, and I've still got the CD, and I've got it on my iPad, and I can take that with me anywhere I want. And if I'm going to sing something, I just a few days before do some exercises. So it's good. So God bless Olivia.
She was on your telly show that you did.
Yes, I think it would have been the first TV show that she did that was here. She came from Australia with a friend called Pat. Pat and Olivia won a competition, and the prize was flying them here and being on TV here. And I watched them, and I thought, these two blonde girls looking fantastic, dance steps, vocals. And then, of course, I asked them to be backing vocal group for me, and they did. And we toured together for about 3 months. And that's when you get to know people, when you're, you know, same hotels, same restaurants. It was just terrific. And that stayed right till the end.
We've got Suddenly lined up. Tell us about this record that you recorded with Olivia.
Oh, yeah. Well, it was part of her film she was making, and I always knew what she was doing because she'd let me know. She said, oh, she'd done Grease, then she was doing a one called Xanadu, and I get a phone call. G'day, Cliff, darling, how are you? And I said, I'm fine, I'm fine. And I thought, why is she calling me? I wonder, because I knew she was making this movie. And of course she said, oh, darling, my co-star, he doesn't sing. And I'm going, yes. And I knew she was going to ask me to do something. And she said, I've got a song called Suddenly, and my co-star doesn't sing. And I couldn't stop myself from laughing. But anyway, that's the song, Suddenly.
All my chances with you.
You know, Cliff and Kate, when I started off in radio and in journalism at the tender age of 19, never ever did I think that I'd be sat in a studio at BBC Radio 2 singing along with Sir Cliff Richard.
Are we having a
on
lovely
live
time?
radio.
I'm having a lovely time.
Just to paint a picture, Cliff was singing along, you were joining in, I was taking some footage, we're waving our arms here, the studio production team were involved. Such a great moment.
Golden. Talking of highlights, I've got to ask you about all things Eurovision, because I'm a huge Eurovision fan and it's just such a passion of mine. And of course, you've represented us twice.
Yes.
1968 and 1973.
And lost both times.
Well, we don't like to say that because everyone's a winner with Eurovision. Everyone remembers congratulations, of course.
Oh, yeah, I know. The funny thing is we lost by one vote. Yugoslavia, where the Shadows and I were huge in Yugoslavia, and in Ireland, where we were also really popular, they gave us nil points. So if they'd given me one each, I'd have won by 1 point.
Once you're part of the Eurovision family, they never quite let you go. You know, how was that whole Eurovision experience and the machine? And because it's a very different thing, Eurovision now, as to what it was when you did it.
It seems to be less the song and more the visual. I mean, it's like watching the most fantastic...
Stage show's amazing.
Video after video. Brilliantly done. I mean, when I think that we just went on stage and just sang our songs, moving our feet from one to the other. But yeah, I mean, I think it's fantastic. It's visually now beautiful.
Well, I went to see it in Liverpool last year, and you're right, the visuals on that are amazing. But let's not do a disservice to your velvet suit and frilled shirt that you wore on the 1968. Congratulations, you looked incredible, my friend.
In fact, should we hear congratulations?
Yes.
I think we should. Let's do it.
Congratulations and celebrations, happy as can be.
There we go. Love that.
Cliff Richard, and congratulations, the runner-up in the 1968 Eurovision Song Contest, the 13th competition. On home turf, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. It was at the Albert Hall.
Yeah. And at that point at Eurovision, you had to sing with a live orchestra as well.
Oh, yeah, everything was
the
live.
rules.
Everything was live, yeah. I loved it enough to do a second attempt.
Yeah.
And then I came 3 in that one. So I didn't do any more because obviously I'm slowly dropping down the 10.
Oh, I don't know. You might have heard it here first. Maybe we could persuade you.
Yeah.
Maybe we could persuade you to have another go at it.
Who knows?
Who knows?
Who
I
knows?
think that wasn't a no.
It must be amazing, though, Cliff, after the glittering, amazing career that you had and still have, that all of us are singing along to congratulations. There are young people who probably celebrate, I don't know, an 18th birthday party, and that record will be played by the DJ. That must be an incredible feeling for you.
It is, especially in a restaurant. You know, when people have a birthday in a restaurant, you see them say, happy birthday to you.
Yeah.
And so, sure enough, they'll go, congratulations. Yeah. It's just kind of nice to think that you've become part of people's lives because they have birthdays and they're likely to play congratulations. And it's nice. I like that.
One more thing from me, if I may, and then Kate, I know, is going to ask you some questions as well, is Devil Woman's one of my favourite records of all time.
Great song.
Right? And I was watching the movie I, Tonya with Margot Robbie.
Oh, yes.
And they used it when the mother appears.
It's at the beginning. They used about a minute of the song.
I remember being in the cinema and not being taken aback by the cinematography, but your voice just comes in with that great song. I mean, that must be an amazing feeling when a producer comes along, a movie producer, and says, "Can we use your music, Cliff?"
Well, they didn't say it to me. I got a shock when I put the film on because I wanted to see it about the ice skater. And the film was fabulous, and the mother got, I think, an award. Didn't
That's right. Yeah, she did.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
But when it finished, I said, "Don't turn it off. I want to see my name." You know, when the music comes up,
credits.
and it came up, "Devil Woman," sung by Cliff Richards.
Oh no!
No way.
I thought this
Rogue
is.
S.
How come the record company didn't spell it right?
I'm not sure if the story's been told ever on the radio. Was it before? Outrageous. I tell you what, whilst we consult the people, while we write an email, let's hear Devil Woman. This is an amazing record. I love this tune.
I've had nothing but bad luck.
Stay.
Come on.
It's only Tony Blackburn and Cliff together.
You're here.
This is incredible.
Don't get. Oh, are you still playing that record?
Yeah, it's fading out there. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Are we
There's
going
the
to talk
fade.
to him when the record's finished?
Oh, talk to me
We can
now.
talk now. Yeah, we'll talk to him now. Yeah. Why
I was
not?
going to say, you mentioned a legend.
Legend, yeah.
Bruce Welch of the Shadows, when I was called a legend, he said, "Just remember it's spelt Legend. You're a legend." We're legends.
I'm
mate.
just getting used to being 80, Cliff.
Oh, well,
I can't get used to
I
it.
got used to that 2 years ago.
Yeah, you're the only one who keeps me going. You're the only person I know who's slightly older than I am.
I am. And let's hope I always will be.
Well, I hope so, for many, many years to
Yeah,
come.
absolutely.
Yeah, at least 20. If not more.
I always said I wanted to play tennis on my 100th birthday. So I don't know whether that's going to happen.
Oh, well, we'll pray for that. We can pray for that.
Or
So,
if I'm
Tony,
not
we've
doing
got
that-
this big special that we're doing with
Yeah.
Cliff for Good Morning Sunday. Can you sum up very quickly, 'cause I know you're going to do your show as well. Can you sum up what this man means to British music?
And when I started on the pirate radio ships, you had hit record after hit record, and I've been playing Cliff's records for, nearly 60 years now. I mean, he's given us so many great records, and I'm doing this Sound of the 60s theatre show, and you probably don't know it, but we have a section donated,
Oh,
for
no,
you.
I didn't know that, yeah.
Yeah, you must come along and see it.
Fantastic. I mean,
You'll like yourself on it. I actually sing. I only sing once in the show, and it's Summer Holiday I sing.
oh, do you?
I can't remember the words ever, and they're very simple, actually, aren't they? And I'm still not quite sure of the lyrics.
Well, I'll tell you what we do. Let's have a little rehearsal then, okay? Because we've got it lined up. So here we are. Stay with us then, if you can.
Anyway.
Here we go. Everyone join in.
We're all going on a summer holiday. No more working for a week or two. Fun and laughter on a summer holiday. No more worries for me or you. For a week or two. Oh, we're going where the sun shines brightly. We're going where the sea is blue. You've seen it in the movies. Now let's see if it's true. Everybody has a summer holiday.
The key change comes later.
Oh, I don't do the key change.
Then
No,
you did then, but
Did I? Oh, yes, I did.
wrong place.
To make our dreams come true. For me or you.
Now there's a little solo. We're going.
We're going where the sun shines brightly. We're going where the sea is blue. We've seen it in the movies.
Here it comes.
Now let's see if it's true.
Go up a semitone. Everybody's
on
a summer holiday. Doing things they always
wanted to.
So
We're going on a summer holiday to make our dreams come true. For me and you.
Oh, boo, boo.
ladies and gentlemen.
Amazing, absolutely amazing.
Think perhaps we ought to do a song together for your next release?
I think you're barking up the wrong tree.
I'll take that as a no.
Oh, Tony, thank you so much for popping in.
It's so good to
It's
see
so
you,
lovely
my
to
friend.
see you, Tony.
Lovely to
Thank
see
you
you.
very much
Okay,
indeed.
mate.
Thank you.
bless
Thank you,
you.
Goblin.
Take
Lovely to
care.
see you, Tony. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Goodness
Well,
me.
you know when you got up this morning and you knew you were recording this interview for BBC Radio 2 with the legend Sir Cliff, did you ever think that would happen?
The answer is no.
No.
My friend.
You
The
would be
answer is
singing
no.
in a studio at Radio 2 with Sir Cliff and Tony Blackburn.
I think I'm probably done. I think that's probably it.
We want to talk to you about your faith as well.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Cliff. Yeah. Just how important has your faith been in your journey?
Oh, and it's played a major part for me. You know, the Beatles also had this feeling about something other, and they chose a different route to go, going into meet the Maharishi in India. But for me, I always feel that when I looked into writing my book, I write a section whole about Curtis Mayfield, who sang for the Impressions. He had the most fantastic falsetto voice. And I told you that he had this terrible thing. He was paralyzed from the end of his life. But while he was in bed, he was still able to talk and sing. And he wrote a song called People Get Ready, There's a Train Coming. You don't need no ticket, you just thank the Lord. I thought, this is a man, it's not his fault, and he's been paralyzed for the rest of his life, and he wants to thank the Lord. And it got me thinking, and it got me on my spiritual path, so to speak.
Yeah.
And then it was just a matter of people sort of recommended that I start reading the Bible. They said, don't read the Old Testament. That might be confusing to start with. But read all about Jesus and what he did. And I slowly got sucked into it thinking, oh, this guy was brilliant. When I had this terrible thing with the police, I couldn't sleep. And I was finding that my hatred of this person that I don't believe I've ever met was getting worse and worse. Anyway, one of these nights I woke up and I thought, I can't go on like this. I know what I should do. I said, God, help me to forgive him. And I said the words, I don't know who you are. You may have had a particularly good reason, or not necessarily a good reason, but a reason to do it. I forgive you. And I learned later that somebody said to me, you know, that's probably the wisest thing you did. Because what happens is that when you forgive somebody else, it's you that feels better.
That
Oh,
release.
absolutely.
Yeah. So, and that spirituality has kept me afloat in the bad times as well as the good.
It's also coming to your music as well, you know, things like Saviour's Day and Mistletoe and Wine, you know, your faith is expressed in those songs
That's
too.
right. And the Saviour's Day was written by Chris Eaton. He rewrote the Little Town of Bethlehem for me. That one I thought was going to be number one, but it got into the 10 just about.
Okay.
And sometimes you can't judge it, but
I love that you still hold on to that, though, that you still go, I thought that was going to be number one. It's okay, Cliff. You've had quite a lot. You can let that one go if you want.
well, you never can have enough.
Quite right, too.
Funny thing, yeah.
Let's talk about Peace in Our Time. This is a track from your new album. We are going to play it very shortly, but tell us about this record, Cliff.
I mean, again, it's one of those things where I remember singing it on stage. I used to say, it doesn't seem to me that we live in a world we are going to see peace in our time. But I said, if we keep praying for it, every prayer brings us one step closer to it. And so being able to sing a song like this, it's always a pleasure to be able to articulate in music how you feel about, look, there will be peace in our time. You've got to force that issue so that our children can take over singing it, and hopefully at one point there may well be peace. Maybe not in our time, but in the world's time.
Go swiftly. The flags and drums can hypnotize. Gonna take love and make it shine. We're gonna find peace in our time.
Love that message. Peace in Our Time by our very special guest, Cliff Richard, who is still with us. And Cliff, your new book, A Head Full of Music, includes songs that make up the soundtrack of your life. And you were talking about that record by Curtis Mayfield and just how powerful that record was, and there are many other stories about records that impacted you personally.
Well, I think I was trying to get over the fact that none of us make it on our own. You know, we're filled with influences that keep on coming. The people that you listen to, the way they sing, it's a massive thing. So you can never ever claim to say, I did this all on my own. It's not true. If it hadn't been for Elvis, I don't think there'd have been a Beatles or me. And so we have to be wired to that. I don't mind talking about it. The fact that I was influenced by something doesn't stop me becoming me, though.
Quite right.
No, of course not.
So-
and the process of writing a book, obviously, you look back on all the things that you've done.
Yep.
But one of the things that I really like about you is you talk about things that you've still got to do. You talk about, I want to play tennis on my 100th birthday, and and I think that lots of people, I work with people in their 80s. Lots of people might be winding down, but there's no sign of that just yet, is there?
Not yet, no. While I can do certain things, I can. The thing is, I spend my time saying, please, let me notice that I can't do that anymore.
Okay.
And then go for something else.
Right.
So, in other words, you can still keep your feelings about doing things without necessarily achieving them. So you have to be ready to fail.
And you still talk about, just then you were saying, I'd never say no to Eurovision, and I'd love another #1, and you keep pushing for those things.
Well, of course. When you think that the last Christmas I got to #2, and I was beaten by Taylor Swift.
Well, that's not a bad person to be beaten by.
No, and she only beat me by about 300 records.
No, absolutely.
Are you going to take a rest after all this? Because you've been really busy. So what are your plans for Christmas?
Oh, well, I'm going back to America. I've got some friends there that have invited me over.
Lovely.
And I'll be there. And I'll be there just in time for Thanksgiving. We have Thanksgiving here now.
Not really.
Not
but
really.
we like to be thankful for all sorts of things.
Yes.
There's lots to be thankful for, right?
In America, the Thanksgiving is almost bigger than Christmas
Yes, it is.
because there's no religion involved.
Sure.
So all families, regardless of background, they all travel and get to be with their families, which is a nice thing. We could add that to Christmas, couldn't we?
And are you thinking of a Christmas #1 this year?
No.
No, not this year.
No,
Have a year off.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't want to be seen as the person who has a hit at Christmas.
Okay.
So if I can have a hit in July, I'd be very happy.
We'll interview you then again.
Well, Cliff, many congratulations on a glittering, wonderful career. Thank you so much for your time today.
Not at all.
Absolutely wonderful. We've had a laugh as well. We've been singing with Tony Blackburn. I mean, I never imagined this would happen.
I've enjoyed the whole
when we started
time.
this.
Yeah.
It's been amazing. And we're just going to end with the final song that we're going to play, My Kind of Life. Tell us about this, because this is a song that you end your shows with.
It is, yes, because when we got the title of the album, Cliff Richard with Strings, My Kind of Life, it kind of sums it up, because far back as I can remember, we had guitars and we'd play outside the front door, inside the house, anywhere we could. And so therefore this song came in and Bruce Welch produced it, but he wanted me to do a bit of growling on it. It's like, my kind of life, my kind. I can only do it twice, and now I've done it. I can't do it again. But it's got that feeling of rock and roll and somebody making something of themselves. So it's a terrific one to finish the show with anyway, and we did that every night.
Have a lovely Christmas. Thank you very much indeed for your time.
Thank you so
And
much.
I hope you have a beautiful Christmas too.
Thank you,
bless
Cliff.
you.
Thank you.
Right from early days, from the moment I was born, I would take my guitar in the early